Hi there, it's Michelle from Made by Michi. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to be using the March subscription box from the Hedgehog Hollow to make a shaker card. This month it is all about fairies, so what better theme to make a shaker card than with fairies? So to start my card, I grabbed a piece of mixed media paper and I trimmed it down to 8 by 6. Yes, that's definitely twice the size of a normal card base, but I was going to be using a card base plus another one for my card, although they wouldn't both be used for my card base. So to start off, I started ink blending 3 different Distress Oxide inks. My first ink that I went in with was Squeeze Lemonade. I used my blending brushes, and I just started blending, going back and forth, left to right. I start off the page so you don't have any harsh lines or marks from the brushes on the edge of your paper. So I just go back and forth. And then my second ink that I went in with was Worn Lipstick, and I just did the exact same thing as the first one. I just go back and forth from left to right, starting off the page and blending in towards the middle, going over the line, over where it meets the Squeeze Lemonade as well, kind of soften and blend that line as well, so you don't have a harsh line where the two inks meet, because you want to make it seem like they seamlessly blend into the next ink. So you don't want to be able to see the line where they meet, if at all possible. And then the third ink that I'm going in with is Tumbled Glass. Again, just doing the exact same thing as with Worn Lipstick and the Squeeze Lemonade with my blending brush, starting off the page and just going in from either side until I get a nice soft blend of the ink, and of course going over the point where it meets the Worn Lipstick to soften out that edge as well, as I did with the Squeeze Lemonade. And now I'm just going back and forth with each of the brushes to soften out each of the lines. I'm not really adding much more ink to the brushes, as there is still plenty of ink on the brushes. And I used a post-it note as well to hold down the paper, because the ink was still wet. I didn't want to get any ink on my fingers, nor did I want to leave any finger marks on the paper. So once I was happy with how all the ink was blended, it was nice and soft, I went to my paper cutter and I trimmed down my panel to 2 different panels of 3.75 by 5 inches, so that they would be half an inch shorter than my card base. So for one of them, I grabbed my Misty to stamp out my fairy trapped in a jar image, which was going to be used for the shaker. And that is from the stamp set Fairy Whispers from the subscription box. So I placed both stamps exactly where I wanted them on there, even though this time I was just going to be stamping out the jar, but I wanted to make sure I was stamping it in the right spot according to where it would be on the card base with the sentiment. So I grabbed my remarkable ink pad in Eclipse Black from Maker Forte. This is a really fantastic, true, intense black, and you would normally, on a normal cardstock, you would normally only need to stamp it out once, but because this is a mixed media paper, it's a little bit textured. I did have to stamp it out 3 or 4 times until I got a nice crisp image, and I was happy with that. On the fairy, there was a little something on it, so I did go in and get that off with the Q-tip, and then stamped it again once more. And then once that was all done, all stamped out, and I was happy with that. Off camera, I also stamped out 11 more of the fairy jar images on just a regular white cardstock. And I cut all of them out, plus the inked panel fairy jar, using my Brother Scan and Cut. It cut all of them out perfectly in the exact same spot on all of them. So it cut the exterior around the outside of the jar, but it didn't cut the inside. So I had to cut out the inside of the 11 jars, but it was actually a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be, because I'm not a big fan of fussy cutting. So that was actually, well, it's a really, really simple cut anyways, so it wasn't that big of a problem. So now I'm just gluing 2 jars together at a time, and I'm using this. It is a liquid glue, but it's in the form of, it's a glue pen, so it's not a really liquidy glue. It's not going to come running out, so you can get it exactly where you need it, and it's not messy. It's not going to go over the edges. It's fantastic. So just run that around the edges of all of my jars. adhere 2x2, place them under a clear acrylic block to help them adhere together, and the weight will help them adhere together a little bit quicker and make sure that it's nice, good, and stuck together. So now I'm just adhering them all together. So at the end here I should have 10 of those all stacked together. I glue that on top of my inked fairy base. And then the other one that's under the base is the top of it. So you have I just roughly cut out a piece of clear acetate to one of the fairy jars. That's going to be the front of my shaker jar. And so while they're both under the clear acrylic blocks to help them stick together really good, I am not quite sure, my apologies, not quite sure what I was kind of contemplating there. I should have edited that out a little bit, my apologies. And so I grabbed my other ink blended panel, which is going to be my card front. So as you can see, yeah, I'm not quite sure actually at this point what, I think I had to leave to go open the window. I'm sorry, I should have edited that out like I said, but you learn. This is my first video where my second video, so I learn for the future ones. So yeah, so now I'm going to put my shaker together. Both pieces are adhered together really nicely, and now I grab my sequins, my big, huge, I love that box of sequins. It is so pretty to look at. So I grabbed 3 different sequin mixes, but first I go around the inside of the jar with a little anti-static powder just in case there was a little bit of glue that I got on the edge and it dried tacky. I didn't want any of my sequins or beads or anything sticking to it. So one of the sequin mixes that I have there is a clear iridescent mix, and I actually believe I should have paused this as well or edited over this part, but I do believe this is the part where my cat came in with a lizard for us. So I had to stop and get rid of the lizard. My husband was here also, so he could help with that, thank goodness, because it was alive, so we had to get it before the little critter scurried away and we lost it, and we had a lizard running around this place as well as 2 cats. So for my sequin mix, I use a clear iridescent sequin mix. That one that I just added in there, it is called Diamond Dust, and what it is finely, it's manufactured from finely ground glass. It's not really sharp or anything, it's not going to cut you, but it's just really fine, really fine glass, and it's so sparkly, so pretty. And then the other mix that I put in there was a mix of little seed beads, sequins in different colors, in golds and dusty pinks, really, really pretty. So I added those all in, closed it up, and put it under acrylic block to help it all seal and adhere with the glue. So now for my ink panel, I just grabbed the fairy jar as well, just so I can see exactly where I wanted the sentiment to go, and I stamped the sentiment directly on my card base. In the end, I thought maybe I should have stamped it on something else and put it on top there just to kind of give a little bit more definition, I guess, but I went with it directly stamped on, and I used a sentiment called Never Grow Up from the stamp set Fairy Magic from the March subscription box. And now I am adding a piece of black and white twine to the top of the jar to make a nice, for a nice pretty bow on it. Just, because every jar with the fairy needs a bow on it. So it's just black and white twine, and I did run it through my fingers at first to try and get out the kinks a little bit that was in the twine from it being on the paper holder. And I just form the bow and play with it a little bit till I'm happy with it and shake it around a bit, get those sequins moving. I think I might have put a little too much of the bigger sequins in at first, but I'm happy with it. It shakes, it's good. And then I just trimmed down the tails of the bow until I was happy with the length of them. And I thought at first that I was going to pop up my ink blended panel using some foam tape. I normally always use foam tape on because I like that little bit extra added dimension. But I thought, no, I'll just glue it directly to my card base. So that's what I did with a little bit of liquid glue. I just adhered it right directly to my card base because I thought with the dimension from the shaker that would be enough. So then I just added my fairy jar shaker to the front of the card using some glue as well. And now I'm just adding the final touches of some sequins. At first, I was going to add the exact same mix to the front, minus the seed beads, of course. But the same, the one sequin mix to the front. But I like to add different sizes of sequins because I think it's a little bit more pleasing to the eye to have 3 different sizes of sequins, where compared to all the exact same size. So after I played around with that a bit, I kind of decided against that and went for a sequin mix that I quite often turn to, which is really pretty iridescent, soft, it's kind of like a ballerina pink. They're really, really pretty. And they actually turned out perfect. So I grabbed 6 of those in 3 different sizes, and I put them in 2 different groups of 3, sorry. And I kind of put them in a triangle formation. And so, yeah, I like to have them grouped together, but I kind of keep them, in a triangle formation. And I always have that little dish right beside me for my sequins. I can pour them out into the dish, grab exactly what I want, and it's really easy to pour them back into their little containers, and it's a really nice dish. So that's my official sequin dish that I keep there beside me. So now I just add the sequins on with a little bit of multimedia matte. And that's it for my card today. I thank you so very much for stopping by. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my page. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye.